the FNL Network talk show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the FNL Network talk show. I am your host, Diana. It's been a minute, so I'm happy to be hanging out with you again. Got a great lineup today for you all. With me, I have Rocco, I have Odair, and I have Corey. Hi, guys.
Hey!
Hey, everyone.
Going?
How you doing? It's been a minute.
Too long. We need to see each other more often.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Summer treating everyone okay? I know it's hot here in LA.
Yeah, I'm quite shocked how hot it's been, actually, but apparently it's been hot everywhere. So maybe global warming is real. I don't know. We'll see.
It's also hot in the Netherlands, so
Yeah, I was wondering about
Really?
how
It
is
is.
the weather out there? Is it like a humid hot or is it like a dry heat? I have no idea.
it switches up. I used to call it bipolar weather because sometimes in one day we can have spring, we can have winter, and we can have summer. Rocco visited me 2 years ago, so he can tell you about it. But today it was very hot. I went to the beach as well, so it was a very nice
Oh
date
yeah,
already.
that's
How
a
hot-
great
very
excuse
nice.
to go to the
Yeah,
beach.
we spent like a month there or a couple of months and it was amazing, but it wasn't crazy hot. It was beautiful. We escaped
Yeah.
Italy because it was crazy hot. And I was like,
remember.
where can we go that's going to be colder? And let's go north. All right.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
awesome. Well, I'll have to get out that way one day, but we were talking before the show. I don't do well on planes, so
You can take a boat.
yeah,
Take a
yeah. There
boat.
we go. I'll do a boat. I'll do a cruise
Yeah.
ship. We can get drunk. It's fine.
They probably have a cruise. I'm sure there's a cruise from somewhere on the East Coast to get over to the Netherlands.
Hell
Or to
yeah,
England.
I'm down. FNL Network talk show cruise ship coming
Oh,
to
absolutely. That would be
Let's go. I'm in.
coming to a boat near you. All right, guys. Well, we got a lot to talk about today. First thing I wanted to touch on, Justin Bieber making headlines. Not for anything crazy in particular. In fact, I feel like this is very much a reversal of how he used to act in a way. So he was at the Waldorf Astoria, very ritzy hotel, and these kids who it looked like they were attending, according to the article, a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah. They were just in the hallway, kind of filming him as teens go, which, you know, I feel like is something Justin Bieber probably would have done back in the day when he was his young self. And he kind of got upset and was like, do you guys think this is funny? Now it's important to note that his wife, Haley, is pregnant. So, I mean, I don't have any kids, but I'm sure things change once you got kids coming on the way and you become more protective. But the whole thing was captured on video, went viral. So I want your thoughts on this. I want to know, like, do you agree with how he handled it? Like, I don't want to say whose side are you on, but maybe do you think he was justified in acting this way? Or do you think because he's in the spotlight, is he expected to have more a professional response maybe? How would you have handled it? Anything like that. So Rocco, I'll start with you first.
Okay, great question. So the fact of the matter is, people that put themselves in that position should expect that attention. So as a spectator, we say, oh, well, he should handle it. He should handle it the right way. But on the opposite side, you're doing a craft you love and you end up achieving success that you didn't realize you could achieve, possibly. And then you're getting this attention, and in the beginning, it's amazing, it's fun, you like it, but then you get really tired of it. And it becomes, you become more of an introvert and maybe pushing it away and not necessarily embracing it. And then you have paparazzis following you. And instead of being looked at as a human, you're looked at as an object in a way, or a subject matter. So there's two different ways to look at it. You know, I actually have a lot of respect for Alec Baldwin, because I was in a situation with him where I was, hosting Fashion News Live, and I approached him, and it was not a paparazzi style, but he was very friendly. And he essentially just said, look, you know, I'm with my family, let's do this another time. I was like, oh, no problem, thanks, you know. But it's a whole different thing with the paparazzi. The other thing that I know for a fact is that celebrities will purposefully set up paparazzi to come to get the PR. So this could have just been a PR stunt, and now we're talking about him, and it's going to get him to sell the story to another magazine. And you know, people at that level, they have teams. There's a PR team. They do damage control. So there's so many different ways to look at it. You know, so I mean, yes, he could have responded a different way. This could have been fake. It could have been set up to get press to talk about him because now he's going to have a baby and he wants to do a book deal or sell baby's clothes, or his wife wants to sell something. You never know. I mean, these publicists and PR teams can spin anything and everything up. So it's just all part of the game. It's all part of the industry.
Yeah, very interesting way of looking at it. I too kind of struggled with like which side is right, because you know, this headline jumps out at you and immediately you think these kids are like egging his home or something like that, let's say, or doing something much worse than it is. And then you watch the TikTok and they're kind of just standing there with their cameras and he's upset. So I do understand, like, I empathize with wanting to have your privacy. You're in this hotel, you might be on vacation or just trying to get some relaxing time in. And like people having your phones in your face would be very annoying, I imagine. But also, like, consider who it is. They're like little kids. If it's bat mitzvah age, they're probably around like 12, 13. So I don't know if him yelling at them is the best way of going about it. Like, if he had a publicist or like a manager there to go talk to whoever's party it was, like the organizer, that would have been better. But it could have been a whole stunt. Like you said, you know, we're talking about it right now. There's really no way to be sure. Odair, I'm very curious rather to know about your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, for me, what's also very important for nowadays, especially, is because paparazzi has changed so much. Nowadays, everyone is paparazzi. Everyone has a camera, and they shove it down your face, and you don't know when to expect it, how to expect it, if you're looking crazy or looking flawless. So those things also play a big part in it as well. And then I ask myself, where is the boundary? When is enough enough? When it's invading my space, or when is it appropriate or not? So in this particular case, I don't exactly know what happened beforehand or after. Is it set up, or is it a PR stunt, or those types of things? Would I have been in his place? And that's also very difficult to say because I'm not in his place. I don't know how tired he is about this, if he's embracing it, if he's putting a distance to it. But I think the proper way to go about it is to stay calm and to evacuate yourself from the situation. I would just take my wife, if it's to protect her, take my wife and then make sure she is out of the situation as quick as possible, instead of standing there and giving it energy. We all know when you give something energy, it grows. So for me, it wasn't clear why it was becoming this big thing, because you could just walk away, right? But maybe it's not as easy as I think in that particular case, because I don't know what happened beforehand or after. And on the other side, like you said, young kids with a camera, they don't know about boundaries maybe yet, or those types of things. What type of example do you want to put out for them? If you talk to them quietly, explaining like, guys, listen, this is inappropriate because this and this reason, then you can teach them something, and maybe tomorrow they will do it to another one. So those are also the things I'm keeping in mind, because it's the young generation, it's the next generation, and how will they go ahead with this? Because if they see him acting like this, they think that's a normal way to act. So that, but on the other side, I understand if you're living in the eye of the world the whole time, it can be exhausting, and I can't even imagine.
Totally. You bring up a lot of good points, especially when you said remaining calm and getting out of there, but you don't know what happened before or after. It's also
Yeah.
what when we're sitting here and there's no stressors around us. I know with me, I'm like, oh yeah, if anything happens, I'm just gonna remain calm. And then something happens and I bite someone's head off and I'm like, oops. So it's really hard to be that way in the moment if you don't know, what
Yeah.
the stressors are. So you bring up a very good point there. And I like how you said setting an example about boundaries, because I didn't know what the hell boundaries were when I was 12 and 13 or a teenager. You know, I feel like I didn't learn until what they were until like 5 years ago. So it's an important lesson to teach. So those are some really good.
I didn't learn until last week.
There you go.
I'm joking.
I was gonna say,
Boundaries, what's that?
What's that?
Learning in process.
Exactly. Corey, what's on your mind about this one?
I think it's a little bit like the mother's curse, right? He was a teenager, and I imagine that teenagers now, when you start getting older, teenagers can be twice as annoying if you remember being twice as annoying as a teenager. So he was definitely an annoying teenager, kind of above and beyond your average teenager, I would say. So it's a little bit of that coming back to curse him, and you know, now he's watching other teenagers, and maybe for that one they're on a little bit more normal level, right? They're at a bar mitzvah, they're all together, they're having a great time, they run into Justin Bieber, they get even more excited, you know. But teenagers can be tough to handle because they are so much energy, and we watched this kid grow up, you know, and so it's easy to say, oh, he was a little bit worse than your average teenager, but because he had kind of an unlimited supply of money, and you know, imagine being a teenager with all the money you could have and basically no curfew, right? I mean, so how well he's done since then, and the fact that he was still able to mature and grow up and become somebody who can be respectable, I think I think that's a testament to it. I think there's a lot of other teenagers that if we had the camera on them 24/7 would have been a lot worse than what we dealt with Justin Bieber. And who knows how many of them would have grown out of that and matured at all. And he seems to have. So yeah, he's on one side, he's going to have to deal with some of that stuff. And I'm just saying personally to him, it's probably even more annoying because he remembers being there and he's like, you know, come on, guys. Like, this is stupid. I promise you, when you get older, you're going to look back and realize how stupid and annoying you're being right now. And not a lot of people have the patience to remember with teenagers. They just got a ton of energy. You know, they got one foot in the adult world and they still got one foot in the kids world. And it's an awkward stage. And a lot of adults don't handle teenagers very well anyways. So part of him probably remembered it. Part of him probably tried, you know, as the article said, for a while, he tried a different route and it didn't work. And then eventually his dad's side kicked in. You know, he's got a new baby. It's going to be protective. Maybe some people want to say overprotective, but I don't think you can be overprotective of a baby at that age. It's his world. It's his job to protect that child, and how he wants to do that simply doesn't matter to all the cameras and everything else pointed at him that wants to judge him and everything else. So whether or not that was the right reaction or not, it was a reaction. He was definitely reacting to the situation. And I think, like I said, I think he's come to be a little bit more mature than I would have expected him to be, knowing him as he was younger. And I've kind of liked watching the journey that he's been on to maturity and adulthood. So, you know, I stand behind him on this one. I think if he's, you know, looking out for her, whether or not he needed to start screaming at the guys or not, I don't know. But why were they there for so long? How did they get to stay there for so long? Who else was keeping an eye on them, saying, all right, you know, who was wrangling these kids in on the other side so that it wasn't his job to do that in the first place? Like, you shouldn't have had to get frustrated like that. So those are my thoughts.
No, all really, really good points. He definitely has matured. I agree with you 1,000%. I also liked how you said, you know, it's a new baby. He's kicking into dad mode. He's never had a kid, so it's not like he knows what to expect. So I definitely could see someone erring on the side of over caution in one of these situations. And then I liked how you mentioned how it's all like kids, you're at a bar mitzvah and then like the celebrity appears. Like, I think of my Sweet 16, like if the Jonas Brothers were just chilling in the set, like we would have freaked out. We didn't have any TikTok. We had those stupid flip phones. I don't even think we had camera phones at that point. There were the stupid flip phones. So we would have our regular
control and
digital
boundaries doesn't even come into the picture when you're that age.
Exactly.
You know?
We would have been with our fuzzy digital cameras trying to get that picture. But no, it was a great discussion. A lot of good points on that one.
And also thinking about, he just had a baby, and sleepless nights, must be exhausting, tired. Those types of things are also things that play a big part. And getting used to being a father, that role, and what color does he give it? What type of father will you be? Will you be overprotective, or will you be maybe with his second child he would handle it totally different? We
Yeah.
don't actually know about that part, and that's why I always say the communication is so important, because what he was saying at that moment, he was saying something like, "Do you think this is funny? Is it funny?" Maybe you could say like, "I don't think it's funny because," then it would be clear, and maybe my 12-year-old would be like, okay, let me stop because this is not funny at all. And if you so those types of things are very important as well. What do you communicate? What do you say? I was just talking to a friend about something, and she said to me like, yes, but I don't think I deserve to be nice at this point. And I was like, oh, that's a powerful statement. When are we? Because I automatically think like, you always have to be nice, but sometimes nice doesn't work, or sometimes nice is not the solution. You're not going to be mean, but you have to set your boundaries and be like, no, you crossed the boundary. Nice is not enough. We're going to separate our own ways, and enough is enough. And I'm just not, you don't exist for me anymore. And that was for me something like, I was thinking like, okay, yes, I understand.
Yeah.
And sometimes in a room full of screaming teenagers, you're gonna have to scream to be heard in the first place. So
True.
They say
Yeah.
clear is kind. And then also, yeah, he did say, do you think this is funny? I bet a lot of the kids were like, yeah, this is hysterical. Like, what good is this going to do,
Yeah.
I'm going to move it over to our favorite topic, artificial intelligence, AI. I feel like maybe we should rename the talk show the AI talk show. Just kidding. We talk about it so much. But this was a really, really interesting article I found. Apparently, there's a study that's saying people are less likely to buy products if AI is mentioned in the description. And it's everything from like vacuums, which I looked up AI vacuum and it's like a Roomba. So I don't even know why you would label it that. But, we talk about this a lot. I said more fun with AI. Does it influence your spending? Do you think you would be less likely to purchase a product because AI was noted in the description? Or are you, like, my opinion on this, I feel like I would have to really do the research because, like I said, an AI vacuum is just a Roomba. Well, I want a friggin' Roomba. That would make my life a lot easier. I don't think it's gonna, I hope it's not gonna turn on me and take over my apartment, like, or entertaining. But, it really depends for me. It would depend on the product. So I'm interested in your thoughts. So Corey, I'll kick it over to you first.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about AI as much as we do, because it's huge. It's changing the world as we know it, and particularly with us who again, we had one foot in the analog world when we were younger and one foot in the digital. We've kind of watched all this grow, and it's happening at a very fast rate, which gives us the experience, the age-old experience of people that are getting older and looking at all of this stuff and wondering, can I keep up with it? Can I keep up with it? And I actually think AI is going to, I think it's going to make it easier for some of us to keep up with some of the things, because it does kind of just take over some of the excess work that we have to do. I'm definitely not one of those that's afraid of artificial intelligence, like, at all, because I've used it, I've played with it. I recognize its usefulness and I recognize its shortcomings. And some of those shortcomings, I think, are always going to be shortcomings. You are always going to need the human element. And as humans, we're never going to accept it without the human element anyways, because we'll recognize that. We have the uncanny valley. There's something about it that we're always going to want to be a part of that. So that being said, it does not bother me. It was very interesting that you found that article, because it doesn't bother me at all. When I see that AI was involved. It's probably way more involved in a lot more things than any of us actually realize at this point anyways. But I just see it as something that eases our process forward. I think I've said it on the show before, but my philosophy on it is from a quote where I don't believe AI is going to replace humans, but I believe humans that use AI will replace people who don't. And I only mean that in the job force and things of that nature. If you're not willing to embrace it, you're going to go the way of Blockbuster. right? We watched Blockbuster in our lifetimes go through this process of, oh, you know, we don't want to do this, and Netflix had gone to Blockbuster first. Blockbuster could have bought out Netflix so long ago for so cheap, and they blew it, right? They blew it, and they lost their entire multi-billion-dollar business out of it from not embracing what is inevitably the future. So it's similar to me with like my own children. I limit their screen time and things of that nature, but I think it's, in the world we live in, it would be ridiculous to not let them have access at all, because they're going to be behind the curve. Right. And it may be scary to me. It may be all these things. But again, I'm a historian. So I look back to stuff like when the train first came out and people were panicking that it went at the breakneck speed of 15 miles an hour. Right. This is the fears that I'm hearing are natural for us, because it's a defense mechanism, as it should be, because that's going to help us also be like, well, let's avoid this though, and let's avoid that. And at this point, I think a lot of people's misunderstanding of it is they often mix sentience, right? They're messing up the idea of what sentience is versus AI. AI is still just computer programming, right? It's intelligent computer programming. Let's say you're trying to write an acceptance letter or something of that nature, or an apology letter. If you go on to ChatGPT or something like that, all it's going to do is search the internet from what already exists as far as apology letters or acceptance speeches, and it's going to piece something together for you from what already exists. Somewhere along the line, what it's researching were written by humans. It's stuff written by humans. And as somebody who likes to write fiction, I use it to great length to memorize my worlds while I'm world building. But you can play with it and you realize it does not write stories, creative stories, very well at all. It's about as good as the picture side of it does hands. And I don't know how many of you guys have seen how often AI cannot get hands correct, but I think stuff like that, it'll eventually the hands will get correct and stuff like that. But overall, it's something we got to embrace. I don't think it's as scary. It's just new. And of course, because it's new, it changes everything. But ultimately, I think it's great, and it doesn't bother me at all to see it on a product. I understand why it does. I totally understand why it would for other people. Something about it seems inauthentic and less human. And for us, that correlates sometimes to when you used to be able to call a business when you had a problem with your product and you talk to a person, and now you get these automated voices. And so we're like, dude, if this is the way of AI, I'm not happy about it. I don't think that's going to be the way in particular, but that piece of technology, I think, tints our view of AI, because that's one in particular. There's probably several, but that I can't stand that. I still want to talk to a human being. Every time I call, I'm like, just put me on with a human who's going to understand what I'm talking about. So I get it from both sides, but it doesn't bother me to see it on products now.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you clarified the definition of AI, because then I think I've fallen victim to this too as you were speaking. I think when people see AI, they automatically think like this thing's going to be smarter than I am in a sense of sentience, not just like you said, you made it sound, which I liked, more of a process and less of a human capability of intelligence.
A really fancy calculator.
Yes,
exactly. Right. It's just calculators getting more and more fancy, and they call it AI. But I told this to my brother the other day. I don't know how many people have seen Back to the Future, but in Back to the Future Part 2, they had hoverboards, right? Mm-hmm. And recently, in the last 10 years or whatever, they came out with these things they call hoverboards, but it's absolutely not a hoverboard the way we're considering a hoverboard. It doesn't hover. It still has wheels. And so when we talk about AI, that's what they're calling it, but it's not true sentient artificial intelligence. So yeah, I do think a lot of people get confused on that part. Like everybody's first thought is it's going to take over Terminator. They're going to attack us. They want us dead. At some point, they're going to start feeling, and they're going to feel like we're enslaving them to do all of our work. And we've watched so many sci-fi movies and read so much sci-fi for so many years that's like the way we think now,
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. Who could blame us? Odair, let's kick it over to you.
Yes, what Corey said, I agree with that, with the part of so we're often scared of the unknown, what we don't know, or the lack of information. What is it exactly? And for me personally, I'm very interested in AI and I don't know a lot about it. So Diana, I'm like you. So I want to know more about it, very, very curious to know about it. And also from the fashion designer point of view, how will it be effective for my business? And therefore, I'm also trying to find a course to get more information about it and those types of things. But I think from the unknown perspective, people get scared. And the first reaction is like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want it. And I want to stay away from it because it's going to replace me. And nobody wants to be replaced. So I think that's the important part. But I think to start at one is to know exactly what it is, what the effects are, what the pros are, the cons are, and then make your decision based on that. So that for me, so for me personally, I would not be buying something because AI is in the description. I would want to know, would be curious to want to know about what are the effects and what does it do, the advantage, and go from there.
I'm curious, you had brought up as a fashion designer, like how AI would replace you. You know, you mentioned that fear. Obviously, living in LA, we're surrounded by the film industry, so we know a little bit more of like how they could use AI to replace voicing and actors and stuff like that. What's an example you think of how it would come into play in the fashion world?
An example is that they might not be needing as much clothes as before. For example, before for a photo shoot, you can create an entire look without a stylist and just create a look with that. And I had an example of one of my clients. He did this shoot, AI and everything. And a friend of mine who knows and that it's my client, he was like, "Oh my God, this outfit is amazing." And I was like, "Which one?" He was like, "Yeah, this." I looked at it. I was like, "I don't know about this." And the first thing that came to my mind was like, is he working with another stylist? Is he doing something on the side that I don't know? Da, 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 da. And I was low-key a little bit jealous because the outfit was amazing, guys. It was amazing. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. And I'm someone, I don't quickly get jealous, but I'm always, if something works for my client, I'm like, yes, I understand why. And so I was like, the outfit's amazing. How am I gonna top this? I was already being creative, like, what will be my next look and all those types of things. And then I talked to my client, he was like, oh, the whole outfit doesn't exist. It's AI. We just did it. And I was really okay. So that's an example. You can create a whole photo shoot without using a stylist, without using me as a designer. You can create your whole imagination. The only thing is you can't have it in real life. Then it needs to be produced. But I also had a course a couple of years ago. I don't know if Rocco attended as well because we did Fashion Week Serbia together, and there they had a course about the future of fashion and how mass production was going to go out. Everything was going to be more customized, and only with a camera they could take in all your measurements. And if you said like the blouse you're wearing, you would be like, no, I don't want it with flowers, I want it with red and polka dots on them. Then the machine would create it for you, send it to you. So there won't be small, medium, large, all those things anymore. Will be adjusted to your specific sizes. So those are the developments in fashion, and which AI will play a big part in this. And this, I had this course about 5 to 6 years ago. And then
Wow.
I didn't know about AI yet. So I think that was what they were talking about. And now it's called AI. And all those developments are being put into place. And I'm seeing all those things from that course bit by bit come together and influence the fashion industry.
Yeah, it's so interesting how it has a role in so many industries, and then of course influence the strike in the entertainment world. So it could have an effect on the economy and all that. I think it's a natural time to segue over to Rocco because he's also involved in the fashion world. I saw you nodding in agreement. So I want to hear your thoughts on this one.
Well, I think AI, in the multifaceted ways it's being applied or trying to be developed, can be pro and con, right? Personally, I'm not afraid of it. I'm embracing it. I'm interested to see where it goes. I know that in the entertainment industry, that there's a fear. Well, if you're in a project and they film you one time, well, now AI, do they own your likeliness and they could automate you to do a part that you didn't even really be filmed. I mean, there's a huge thing there with AI. You know, I'm part of the Academy. I'm also a producer. I'm part of the PGA Guild, Producer Guilds of America. And there's many, many meetings about this. What's wild, I mean, I recently was in Singapore, and they have massive printers that can print out the fabric right there and then.
Yes.
And then you could put the outfit. I mean, it's wild. It's so wild. You could design something on the computer, print it on fabric, and then just put it together. So AI will change everything that we're doing in every possible way. And personally, again, I'm not fearful of it. I understand the fear. I can understand different perspectives on it, but I'm looking to embrace it. Now, what is somewhat fearful is I've seen videos online where it's two different devices. I don't know if it's fake or not. I haven't done the research, but it's like two AI phones talking to each other and planning out how to destroy the human race. And I don't know if that's just fake, you know, for more likes and hits and so on, or if it's real, but it makes your imagination go and think, man, you know, are we going to see Terminators in 50 years? And I know that Tesla is creating a bot, the Tesla bot. And, you know, if we have some Tesla bot at home doing our chores and there's a gun at home, you know, it gets angry with us one day and grabs the gun, and hey, that's the first robot killing a human. I mean, again, these are all make-believe scenarios from movies that we've seen growing up that feed into our creativity, right, and our imagination. So I guess we'll see what the future holds. But I know a lot of governments are racing, putting a lot of money into AI, China, America. I mean, there's so many.
Israel.
So much, right? There's so much going on. And we're going to live through it, you know, hopefully, God willing, that we'll all be healthy and old, and we'll see all this development and see what happens.
Well,
Yeah.
I think when I look at it, that's the kind of stuff my imagination goes off on it. So of course there's always a danger. There's always a danger, right?
Always.
Again, we're talking about trains, and they were afraid to train. Well, of course, bad things happen with trains too. When cars were invented, of course, bad things happen with cars. People do bad things with cars. People have done horrible things with the internet, but it's also changed all of our lives. So there's going to be all of that. I'm like a huge fan of Michael Crichton, or was until he passed away. He did Jurassic Park, but he has this huge body of work that's been talking about these same things. You know, he's the master of the techno thriller, and it's constantly talking. Like he was in on these conversations about mapping the human genome and whether or not they were going to be able to patent the human genome and things like that. So the idea of likeness, human likenesses in the entertainment industry, that's going to be something we're really going to have to do. So again, our imagination's going off on the worst case, you know, scenarios is healthy. It's a healthy part of moving a technology forward, is recognizing that bad things can happen. Let's not be, you know, children with a science kit, which is what I think Ian Malcolm says in Jurassic Park, right? So that's always going to be a part of all of it. But my imagination just puts the pieces together. So I'm looking at like nanotech's already a thing. Now, if nanotech can be controlled by AI, and AI can start controlling on a more steady process at a lower and lower level, that means that we can start having nanobots that are building nanobots that are building even smaller nanobots until we've reached.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you just confirm or clarify what nanotech is for those of us playing at home who might not know what it is?
So nanotechnology and like nanobots are literally just tiny, tiny, tiny robotics, right? You start at something the size of a fly, but you could get even smaller than that. So, and the idea, again, Crichton did a book on this, but the idea is that if nanobots got small enough, they become like this cloud, and people just see this like small smoke cloud, but it's actually these nanobots that are going inside and eating people from the inside out, right?
Yeah. Or
So
fixing you, right? Using nanobots for surgery.
So that was what they were designed for, right? And that's the darker side that he always does, right? What if dinosaurs came back? He's big on that. That's what he does. And I love those kind of scenarios. It's always about the what ifs and should we just because we can, you know. And so with nanotechnology, one of those steps that was always missing, even when he wrote about it, was how to control it properly at that level. Well, AI and the ability to have something that knows its job, and then to teach that to be able to teach something else to do that job, and then to have nanobots make smaller nanobots make smaller nanobots. Yes, it's a very, very real possibility in the future of basically injecting or inhaling something that's all these tiny AI controlled robots that might go in and destroy cancer, that might go in and do all of these things. Now, could they go bad? Of course, but our cells go bad. That's why cancer comes in the first place, right? So there's always the risk. There's always the there's the good and the evil, the dark and the light. All these things are always going to exist. And I think it's healthy to discuss those fears, but it's even healthier to move past them and recognize, yeah, but that's not possible, or that's not exactly the same thing. So just like with Rocco was saying, we've seen so many movies, which is why the AI phones talk to each other. They're going through our history, our memories, our movies, our sci-fi, which is why they know that that's some creepy thing that you know what I mean? When I say they know, though, it's just the computer reacting to what already exists. So the idea that there's a robot at home that gets angry and grabs the gun, well, how does it get angry? Now that's a human emotion, right? That's an emotion that artificial intelligence, even if we're correctly using the term artificial intelligence, does not have. They don't get angry. They don't get upset. And it's hard not to think of it that way, because if you've seen those Boston Dynamics robots, they're like kicking them and they knock them over just to show how they can get back up and how well they can recover. And like, I can't watch it and be like, dude, stop. You're pissing it off, man. You're making that thing mad, or you're just getting upset. Like, we kind of infer that on our technology already. We call our cars, that's my girl sometimes, or we talk about boats as, she'll hold together. And it's something we've always done. And I think as we go forward, we'll continue to do that with all of this AI. But I see it as something that's going to be awesome. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a little robot dog, being hypoallergenic to most dogs. Be nice to have a little dog that reacts and watches the house and stuff like that. And
absolutely, and never dies. That's pretty awesome.
But someone could flip the evil switch and it goes and attacks my family, right? That's
right.
It's the first thought. Like, it's natural for us to go that route, and I think it's a healthy process to weed through what can go wrong, and it's fun. I think it's fun. I think it's going to be amazing to watch. As long as we're not too afraid, it's going to be amazing to watch it unfold, like Rocco said, in our lifetimes.
Yeah, a lot of good things. I really like how you also clarified that it would take that human emotion, because again, we don't, we're so used to being humans and like having emotions that we do. Like you said, assign feelings. Like, I have my stuffed animal sitting next to me that I can't show you because it's part of the Parent Trap movie and that's copyrighted. But Cuppy is like, I give Cuppy feelings all the time. I talk to Cuppy. It's a freaking stuffed animal. You know what I mean?
They do that in horror films too. If you ever pay attention, like Jaws.